Scholars, I'm here to talk to you about another important chapter in the American Revolution. We're going to be talking about the Battle of Saratoga, which is actually two battles, neither of which took place at Saratoga, but we'll talk at the end about why they call it the Battle of Saratoga. When was it? 1777. Where was it? New York. Saratoga is a city that still exists to this day, and it's right here. And at the time, this whole area was mostly controlled by the Patriots. This was Patriot territory, and they were getting supplies from other Patriots that were in this area. Now, this was British over here, and this was British here. The British decide they are going to march south. They are going to take Albany, and they are going to cut off the supply line so that the Americans couldn't get supplies. Who was it? John Burgoyne had 8,000 British troops. Now, this is why he only had 8,000 British troops. He thought General Howe from down here was going to join him up here with his thousands of British troops. But General Howe said, "Nah, I'm not interested. I changed my mind. I'm not going to join you." Well, there were two American generals, Benedict Arnold and Horatio Gates, and they together had 12,000 American troops, so they outnumbered the British Redcoats. Also, along the way, the Americans had a strategy of sniping at the redcoats as they marched through the forest. So the redcoats were already being picked off one by one. Here at the Battle of Freeman's Farm, the Americans held the line and would not allow Burgoyne and his men to advance. Before this, they had just been sniping at them in the woods, shooting a few soldiers here, shooting a few soldiers there. But here, the Americans, they come out, they block the path of the British, and the British have to retreat. So Burgoyne leaves with his soldiers, and then we have the Battle of Bemis Heights. Here, what happened is Benedict Arnold attacked from the front with all of his soldiers, and it was a vicious attack. The Hessians here, during this battle, can be seen losing to the Americans who are in brown. So then what happens is when the British again decide we need to retreat, we're losing this battle also, Horatio Gates and his men had circled around back and cut off their line of escape. So now what happened is the British, they have a choice. They can either keep on fighting and die because they're greatly outnumbered and they're losing, or they can surrender, and they decide to surrender. So this was very important because this is the first time in the history of the American Revolution where a British general with a British army was surrendering to an American army. Why is that important? Because the French had noticed. The French said, "Wow, look at these Americans. They really could win this war." And the French decided to join up with the Americans to together defeat the British. Before this, the Americans were all on their own. We call this a turning point because now the Americans start winning the war. Before this, they were just almost losing. But here, with French help, the Americans now have more supplies, more soldiers, and they start winning the war. There's a short video if you want to watch it. There's a longer video. I like the longer one. You might like the shorter one. You only have to watch one, but they're really helpful for your activity. Let's take a look at cause and effect. In the middle, we have an event. SpongeBob eating way too much. What caused that? Well, that would be what happened before SpongeBob started overeating. He was hungry. That's what caused it. Now, what would happen after he was overeating? That's the effect. SpongeBob was sick. You're going to be doing a similar activity. What you're going to do is the battles of Saratoga. They're called the battles of Saratoga because of where the surrender point was, which was in Sarasota, New York. Remember, they weren't fought in Sarasota. That's just where the surrender was. You're going to give me 3 things that happened before the battles and 3 things that happened after the battles. Those would be the effects. Everybody, do your best, stay safe, and keep learning.